when it comes to team planner. Let's look at the next option by which you can do automatic leveling in Project 2010. So the last 20 minutes I have been doing optimization in the manual way. When I say manual way, I was finding out which resources are over allocated, okay, and I was also either delaying that activity to the next available date or swapping it with another resource. So all these are manual options. But the option what we are going to show you now is what we call as the automatic leveling features of Project 2010. By Project 2010, based on the priority what you set, it can automatically delay one of the activities based on your convenience. So I'm just going to go back to project and let me open a different plan. Good. So what you are now looking at is a different project plan where I have a set of activities, and you would be able to find that there are a few activities where I have some over allocated resources. So let's find out how we can try to make use of automatic leveling features. So the first option is on your resource tab, you can find there is an option called leveling options. So this is the, I can say, the rules which you define for automatic leveling will be configured in this dialog box. You can find that we are welcomed by 3 sections here called leveling calculations, leveling range, and resolve over allocations. When you say leveling calculations, it has a radio button called manual and automatic. By default, it is manual. When you say manual, whenever there is an over allocation, project will flag that over allocation in different views by a red color indicators. But when you say automatic, the moment a resource gets over allocated, it will make use of the rules what you have defined in the 3rd section, and it will automatically delay one of those conflict tasks. But remember, not every time it can delay. For example, if I have an activity and I have assigned a resource to it, and I have asked the resource to spend more than 100% every day, though the resource is over allocated, project cannot do anything about it because he is working on only one activity. So project will not try to reduce the 200% to 100% automatically. So when you say automatic, it will apply only for resources who are working on parallel tasks. When he's working on only one task and he's over allocated, project will give you an error or a warning that I'm not able to resolve over allocation in that scenario. Maybe you need to do an manual leveling in that case. So I'm just going to have manual for learning purpose. The second is you can just try to fix to what degree you want Microsoft project to find over allocation. So do you want Microsoft project to look at minute by minute in a plan and find over allocation, or do you want to go to hour or a day or a week or a month? So generally for all of our projects we will look at a day by day level, because if you look at a minute by minute level, it might look like micromanaging, or you might be looking at plan, or you might be doing resource optimization every minute. So I don't recommend you to go for either a minute by minute or hour by hour. Day by day is a generally accepted practice. Now let's look at the second section. It says the leveling range. When you are having a very detailed scope and you have finalized a plan, naturally you might know when resources are working from the first day till the end of the project, because the scope is defined, you know the methodology, you know how much people are working across different cities or across on-site and offshore. If that is the case, make sure that your leveling range is level the entire project. If your plan is bit dynamic, or you are progressively elaborating your plan, maybe you might have clarity only for the next 3 weeks, so who is going to do what. Maybe for the remaining weeks of your project, you may not have clarity about which resources are working on which activity, and you would have assigned resources just for accountability purposes, but not for responsibility. In those cases, entire project may not give you a desired result. Maybe you can go for the second ready button called level the schedule from a given date to a given date, which means only resources who are over allocated between the from and to dates will be optimized. Now let's go for the entire project here, and now let's look at the rules. The first rule which you need to define is the leveling order, where you need to say, if I have two parallel activities in my project which has the same resource, what should be taken as a priority based on which the task needs to be delayed. Here the leveling order by default, if I select ID only, project will try to use the task IDs. Here if you look at it, feasibility and prepare SRS are assigned to the same resource. So when I say ID only, project will try to delay the prepare SRS rather than feasibility. So which means the task that has the highest ID number will always be delayed. So let me try out ID only, and I'm just going to turn off the other options, and let's see what happens. I just need to hit the level now option. When I hit the level now option, you can find my feasibility start date and finish date has not changed, but my prepare SRS start and finish and its successor activity automatically got pushed to a later date. So I recommend you go for an ID only option if you have designed your plan such that the most critical activities in your project are positioned at the beginning of the plan, or maybe the less priority activities are designed or put at the later part of your schedule. But not normally everybody will design a plan that way. So mostly ID only is rarely used. Okay. The second option is called standard. When you talk about standard, I think we need to go back to what we mean by critical path. I hope all of us do know what is critical path. It is the longest path in your schedule which cannot be delayed, or the activities on the critical path will have a float of 0. So let me first look at the critical path in this project. Okay, so I'm just going to look at my critical path here. So I'm just going to use my textiles, and I will say I just want to look at my critical activities. I hope you are able to find my prepare SRS, my review, my analysis, my process, and my project completed. These are the set of activities that are critical. Whereas feasibility, as you can see, is not a critical activity because as you can see, the slack of my feasibility is 4 days, whereas for the other activities, the slack is 0. That is the reason it is critical. If you are running a project where you want to delay an activity without affecting the project finish date, here as you know the project finish date is 7/10, naturally your non-critical activity needs to be pushed to a later date, which means that I just go to the leveling options and I just go for a standard option here. So when I say standard, project will look at between those two parallel activities which is having a higher slack. So you can find prepare SRS is having 0, feasibility is having 4 days as a slack. So project will try to delay feasibility rather than prepare SRS. Okay. So let me see what happens. I will do standard and I will do a level up. Oops. Okay. So now you can find my feasibility start date and finish date got pushed, but still I am not happy about it because you can see my project finish date got moved. The reason being that though feasibility is non-critical, but it was not having the enough slack to push this activity, so naturally my project finish date got affected. So how do I resolve this problem without affecting my finish date? So let me go to the leveling options again and let me select standard. Now this is the checkboxes will help. So the first option here says level only within available slack, which means when feasibility activity gets delayed, I just want that activity to be delayed only within this available 4 days, which means you will end up in preparing a schedule that might not look totally unrealistic, but I can say it is less realistic because there are on a few days of your project you might find some overvacation, but not most of the time. Okay, so let me select the first option. I've selected standard. I will do a level all. oops, I hope you guys can find project says it cannot do over allocation or resolve over allocation for this resource who is offshore business analyst on Thursday. Okay, so let me skip it. Okay, so it gives you the same problem on Friday. Do a skip. So now you are able to find on Thursday and Friday, right? So on Thursday and Friday, you can find the offshore business analyst is working on 2 parallel activities. Earlier he is working on 4 days, maybe now he's overallocated on 2 days. So now you will be able to find, though the overallocation has moved from prepare SRS to the business process analyst, you can find my project finish date is not yet moved. So if you have a requirement that my project finish date should not be moved, I have very less resources in my project, I want to have minimal overallocation, then I recommend go for the standard option, the leveling order, with the first option saying level only within available slack. But when you say level only available slack, you would have observed that this particular activity got pushed to a later date. Okay, it might happen that this particular activity, feasibility, might have been assigned to multiple resources. Okay, so I'm just going to, let's try it. Okay, so I'm just going to reduce the hours. Good. So I hope you can find I have feasibility where I have an offshore guy on the resource I working on it. You can find through the task inspector also, it is only the offshore BA who got over allocated. Okay. So when I try to do the standard option, right? So when I use a standard option and I do a level all, you can find the resource I is also now working on the new start date and the finish date. So you don't want the resource, both the resources to start date and finish date to be affected. You want only the resource who got over allocated, is start and finish alone to be affected. How do I do that? So I just did an undo and let me go for the leveling options. I'll select standard and I just want to select the second option saying leveling can adjust individual assignments on the task, which means project is going to delay only the assignment of the resource who is over allocated. So in this case, it is only offshore BA. So let me say level all. I hope now you can find through the task form, you can find that for feasibility, Sai is working starting from Friday and he completes on Monday, whereas the business analyst starts on Tuesday and completes on Wednesday. The reason why the split has happened is because on my leveling options, I have clearly told leveling can adjust individual assignments. But if this option was turned off, project would have delayed the task rather than the assignments, which means both the resources would have started on Tuesday rather than the case what you are now looking at. Good? Okay. So as you can see, right, so there are multiple ways by which you can do resource leveling, either by the automatic leveling options or through the manual leveling options. So let me go back to my slides. So the first option what we talked about is through the manual or automatic. So I recommend go for manual because if you go for automatic, you will find for every small overallocation, project will try to delay an activity. So that might not look like the most realistic approach of getting your plan done. Then we talked about leveling range, where you can either say the entire project or between from under to date. The third one is we talked about ID only or standard, where we said ID only uses the task IDs, whereas standard makes use of the slack. The last one is a priority comma standard. I'm just going to show you how that works. Okay, so as you can find, when I try to select my standard here and I do a level all, you can find the task that is having slack gets delayed. But due to some reason, people might say, though feasibility is not a non-critical activity, as per my customer, feasibility should not be delayed. Okay, so which means that though it is not part of my critical path, You don't want the start date and the finish date of that activity to be getting affected because of resource leveling. So what we can do is, for those affected activities, you can just double click the task, and on the general tab you have a priority value. Remember, the priority value can be from 1 to 1000. The higher the value, higher the priority. Okay, so I'm just going to say the priority of my feasibility is 1000. The moment you key in 1000, you can see that there is an instruction that is being displayed below. It says neither leveling nor prevent overlocations to be moved for this because the priority has been set to 1000. What does this mean? When I try to go for leveling options and I select priority comma standard and I do a level all, you will be able to find my prepare SRS is getting delayed rather than my feasibility. Though feasibility was having a higher slack, as you can see, my priority is now being used than my slack. Okay, so that is what I think which you need to remember with respect to your automatic leveling. So as you have already talked about, you can try to make use of the options what we configured here to either do leveling for a particular selection or for the complete project. As you can see that the configuration what you have set here will indirectly affect your Gantt chart or your team planner or your resource sheet. So let me give you a demo for that. Let me undo this change and let me say I've selected it is by standard. Okay. Now if I just go to my resource sheet, okay, and you find my offshore resources over allocated, you can just right click, you can just make sure that you select that particular resource and you can go to the resource ribbon and you say level resources. When you say level resources, all the activities that has been assigned to this particular resource that we have over allocation will be automatically delayed by the settings what you have done here. So which means it will use a standard option with these settings to delay that activity. So let me say level resource. So it says offshore BA. Let me say level now. You can see the offshore business analyst problem got resolved. On my Gantt chart, you'll be able to find what impact it got created. Good. So let's take the questions last. So just to summarize,